You should probably put your chair here.
Okay.
Instead of your arm. This side.
Hello out there in TV land.
I have to remember, this is not being filmed, I have to remember.
It's just, you know.
Well.
Okay, we ready?
Yeah.
You ready?
Yeah.
Okay.
This is a high quality film, right?
So he was just on the street selling these cards, and he still had the mohawk. He was wearing these paint-splattered smocks. He was just like this spectacle. He walked into this restaurant where Andy Warhol and Henry Galsell are having lunch.
Andy Warhol, he was like, you know, just a demigod or a god or whatever.
He was our hero. He was our everything. He was just like the guy that we all were in New York for.
So he went in and he presented himself and he introduced himself and offered these postcards. And Warhol bought 2 or 3.
I was like, what? I was like, what happened? He was like, yeah, I just walked up to him, man. And I was like, yeah. I said, well, what did Henry Galsell say? He said it was young. I was like, really?
I called him and he insisted to take me to the house of a girlfriend in the Lower East Side, where I saw several drawings. He then said that he wanted to show in my gallery, but he did not have paintings. So I said, you don't have anything? And he said, give me some money so that I can buy some canvas, which I did. And very shortly after, he showed me the canvas, which were great.
Nina Nozay connects with him and gives him the basement of her gallery on Prince Street as a studio. And it was a basement, but a nice basement with a skylight and the gallery assistants fawning over him.
He would come quite early in the morning, just after the gallery opened, and he would bring often croissant from Dina De Luca, and if he was late, he would say to me, you know, I'm sorry, I'm late. I said, but Jean-Michel, you don't have to respect the schedule. You can come anytime. And he put on music, which drove me crazy. Classical music, Ravel, over and over, the Bolero of Ravel, he would really drive me crazy. I would bang with my umbrella, quiet down.
This is a very crucial period for Jean-Michel, because this is the transition period from working on the street to working in a real studio.
Very quickly thereafter, he got his first show at the Nina Nozay.
The first person he wanted to show the show was his father right away, and Gerard came.
His first real public exhibition is at a Nina Nozay,
which was a hit. And he made $200,000 in one night. Everything sold in one night.
Do you ever comply with the request to describe your work?
I never know how to really describe it, except maybe I don't know how to describe my work.
Do you feel that that's important to you, though, not to be able to describe it?
It's like asking somebody, you know, asking Miles, you know, how does your horn sound? You know, I mean, he can really, I don't think he can really tell you, you know, why he played, you know, why he plays this at this point in the music, or, you know, just, it's sort of on automatic, you know, most of the time.
He met Andy through me when I took him to a lunch to be photographed for a portrait. Jean-Michel did not want to stay for lunch. He said, no, I have to go, I can't stay. About an hour and something later, he arrived with this huge painting. He just went home, and after this little Polaroid of Andy and him, he painted this painting very fast, a really great masterpiece. We all gathered around, and Andy said to me, he said, oh, I'm so jealous. I said, why? He said, oh, he's fatter than me.
I started just hanging out with him and filming him painting, and I probably filmed him over 2 or 3 years just hanging out in the studio painting with him. What Jean would do is he would go out at night, and then he would come home and basically lock himself in for 2-3 days, just paint and paint and paint.
So do you have a specific method of working? Do you have certain hours that you always work? Do you?
I just have to. I'm usually in front of the television. I have to have some source material around me, you know, to
Like
work
what?
off. I don't know, you know, magazines, textbooks.
You don't mind having a lot of
conversations.
people around too while you're painting too.
I've discovered that I think I'd rather work alone more than anything. You know, I used to have assistants a lot around me, and then on days when they wouldn't come, it would be a lot more productive. You know.
He was going out a lot, and he was under a lot of pressure to paint because he owed paintings to his art collectors and his art dealers, and each painting that he did had to be a masterpiece because now he was being criticized in the international art world. I think it was getting harder and harder for him to go back and forth from being an adventurous 20-year-old to being a serious painter.
He told me that he was starting to use heroin at that point. He chose to use these drugs in order to concentrate, you know. I prefer a cup of coffee myself, but...
Put yourself in that position. Here's this guy that is 20, 21, 22, you know, living on the street, and within the course of 2 years, he became a really, really famous artist. Everyone started flocking around him. Can you imagine how that would be difficult to adapt to?
It's a conscious choice to begin taking heroin, knowing that everyone who messes with it gets fucked up.
Jean did want to be this burning ember.
In modern times, there is, for sure, whether you take Jackson Pollock, whether you take Vincent van Gogh, a romance about the notion of the artist as the person whose life is so intense that it's more than he can bear. And there is always the question of, is it a kind of self-fulfilling prophecy? And I think in particular in Basquiat's case, he identified very consciously with these heroes who had tragic endings.
He knew about the mystique of the drugs. How much of that was his own emulation taking it to the next level? So everything that happens to you then becomes heightened. But it's hard to go back to the real world.
One of the last times I saw him was New Year's Eve. He was sitting by himself at a bar looking very sad, but so sweet, and he just smiled at me. That image haunts me, because there he was, New Year's Eve, all by himself at this bar, the most famous artist of his generation.
It was a normal day. He and Kevin had tickets to go to Run DMC, and he was very excited about going.
He got in a limousine or something. We were going high style to the concert.
Went up there and said Kevin's on the phone, and he was sleeping, and so this was normal. I went up a couple times, and he was in bed resting or whatever. So the last time that I went up, he wasn't on the bed. And he'd fallen on the floor.
We sprinted over to, when she said he wouldn't wake up, we ran over to his house. And she opened the door and we went upstairs and he was laying there unconscious.
I was on the beach and somebody came up and told me that he died.